Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 20 through chapter 15, verse 6. When Yahweh your Elohim enlarges your border as he has promised you, and you say, "Let me eat meat," because you long to eat meat, you eat as much meat as your being desires. When the place where Yahweh your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you shall slaughter from your herd and from your flock which Yahweh has given you, as I have commanded you, and you shall eat within your gates as much as your being desires. Only as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you are to eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike eat of it. Only be strong not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life. Do not eat the life with the meat. Do not eat it, you pour it on the earth like water. Do not eat it, that it might be well with you and your children after you, when you do what is right in the eyes of Yahweh. Only the set-apart gifts which you have and your vowed offerings you are to take up and go to the place which Yahweh chooses. And you shall make your ascending offerings, the meat and the blood, on the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim, and the blood of your slaughterings is poured out on the slaughter place of Yahweh your Elohim, and you eat the meat. Guard and obey all these words which I command you, that it might be well with you and your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim. When Yahweh your Elohim does cut off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, guard yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, "How did these nations serve their mighty ones? And let me do so too." Do not do so to Yahweh your Elohim. For every abomination which Yahweh hates they have done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. All the words I am commanding you, guard to do it, do not add to it, nor take away from it. When there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he shall give you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder shall come true, of which he has spoken to you, saying, "Let us go after other mighty ones which you have not known, and serve them." Do not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh your Elohim is trying you to know whether you love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. Walk after Yahweh your Elohim and fear him, and guard his commands, and obey his voice, and serve him, and cling to him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams is put to death, because he has spoken apostasy against Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and ransomed you from the house of bondage, to make you stray from the way in which Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to walk. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. When your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your friend who is as your own being, entices you secretly, saying, "Let us go and serve other mighty ones which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, of the mighty ones of the people which are all around you, near to you or far off from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth," do not agree with him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pardon him, nor spare him or conceal him, but you shall certainly kill him. Your hand is first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And you shall stone him with stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage. And let all Yisrael hear and fear, and not again do any such evil matter as this in your midst. When you hear someone in one of your cities, which Yahweh your Elohim gives you to dwell in, saying, "Some men, sons of Belial, have gone out of your midst and led the inhabitants of their city astray, saying, 'Let us go and serve other mighty ones whom you have not known,' then you shall inquire, search out, and ask diligently. And see if the matter is true and established that this abomination was done in your midst, you shall certainly strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, putting it under the ban, and all that is in it, and its livestock with the edge of the sword, and gather all its plunder into the middle of the street, and completely burn with fire the city and all its plunder before Yahuwah your Elohim. And it shall be a heap forever, never to be built again. And none of that which is put under the ban is to cling to your hand, so that Yahuwah turns from the fierceness of his displeasure, and shall show you compassion, love you, and increase you, as he swore to your fathers. When you obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, to guard all his commands which I command you today, to do what is right in the eyes of Yahuwah your Elohim. You are the children of Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cut yourselves, nor shave the front of your head for the dead, for you are a set-apart people to Yahuwah your Elohim, and Yahuwah has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. Do not eat whatever is abominable. These are the living creatures which you do eat: ox, sheep, and goat, deer, and gazelle, and roebuck, and wild goat, and mountain goat, and antelope, and mountain sheep. And every beast that has a split hoof divided in two, chewing the cud among the beasts, you do eat. But of those chewing the cud, or those having a split hoof completely divided, you do not eat, such as these: the camel, and the hare, and the rabbit, for they chew the cud, but do not have a split hoof. They are unclean for you. And the pig is unclean for you, because it has a split hoof, but does not chew the cud. You do not eat their flesh, or touch their dead carcasses. These you do eat of all that are in the waters. All that have fins and scales you do eat. And whatever does not have fins and scales you do not eat. It is unclean for you. Any clean bird you do eat, but these you do not eat: the eagle, and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the red kite, and the falcon, and the buzzard after their kinds, and every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the nighthawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after their kinds, the little owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the fisher owl, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. And every creeping insect that flies is unclean for you. They are not eaten. Any clean bird you do eat. Do not eat whatever dies of itself. Give it to the stranger who is within your gates to eat it, or sell it to a foreigner. For you are a set-apart people to Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. You shall tithe without fail all the yield of your grain that the field brings forth year by year. And you shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place where he chooses to make his name dwell. The tithe of your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, and of the firstlings of your herds and your sheep, so that you learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim always. But when the way is too long for you, so that you are not able to bring the tithe, or when the place where Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, when Yahuwah your Elohim is blessing you, then you shall give it in silver, and shall take the silver in your hand, and go to the place which Yahuwah your Elohim chooses. And you shall use the silver for whatever your being desires, for cattle or sheep, or for wine or strong drink, for whatever your being desires. And you shall eat there before Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall rejoice, you and your household, and do not forsake the Levite who is within your gates, for he has no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of every 3rd year, you bring out all the tithe of your increase of that year, and store it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the sojourner, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates, shall come and eat and be satisfied, so that Yahuwah your Elohim does bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. At the end of every 7 years you make a release of debts, and this is the word of the release. Every creditor is to release what he has loaned to his neighbor, He does not require it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the release of Yahweh. Of a foreigner you could require it, but your hand is to release whatever is owed by your brother. Only there should be no poor among you, for Yahweh does greatly bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you to possess as an inheritance, only if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard to do all these commands which I am commanding you today. For Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you as he promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall rule over many nations, but they do not rule over you.